Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. I am so grateful over the fact that you have taken out your time to be with us this evening and to basically embark on this journey of learning how we can better ourselves, better our families, better our societies through traditional Islamic knowledge. Today, inshallah, I'm going to be spending this time in sharing with you what our institute, the Mathabah Institute, has to offer, especially when it comes to Islamic scholarship, and also give you a bit of background on what this institute is currently offering along with Islamic scholarship and what the philosophy, what the goals, what the objectives of this institution is. So sit back, inshallah. We're going to have a dynamic hour, inshallah. What we will do is I'm going to present this presentation that you see on your screen. And after that, we're going to open it up to all the participants to feel free to ask questions. Alhamdulillah, I am joined by our faculty. I'm very grateful to them for taking out the time to be with us. So inshallah, feel free to ask whatever questions you want in respect to the program that we do want to explain about. And inshallah, we'll take it from there. So without any further delay, it's important for us to know what this institute is all about. And in essence, when this institution was created back in 2009, it went from providing random programs to random, excuse me, random programs to random courses to something that was much more structured and focused and goal-oriented. So now what is the Institute after that little journey that we had? It's really an in-class and online platform for studying and working adults to learn traditional Islam at every level and to work to a formal traditional designation. Now, that's a lot of words there, but let's break this down. Really, what our institution was focused on was providing an in-class experience, not so much on the online platform. There are plenty of online institutions, online services, but we felt that to try and be true to the tradition, it's best to do things in class. That's where you're going to have a direct connection with your teacher, and basically you can have that knowledge being imparted from heart to heart. But now that we have faced the current circumstances of COVID-19 pretty much for the bulk of 2020, it's all obviously compelled us to move in a different direction, which is then opened up multiple doors and multiple opportunities and things that we do want to try and explore, and that is particularly the online platform. So now we are offering both platforms, the in-class platform, which at the moment is suspended due to the current circumstances that we are facing. And we have an online platform, which is active at the moment. And who is our target audience? Our target audience are the people who are busy studying, I should say, when it comes to their post-secondary education. Okay, they're busy studying, whether they're in college or they're in university or they're pursuing some type of a degree or certification, whatever it is. Those people who are now focused on trying to make a career for them, or they're currently pursuing a career, they're currently in a career, I should say, and they are earning their livelihood, supporting their families, but yet these two classes of people have a zeal to learn Islam, not at a basic level, but at an advanced level. Okay, so we want to provide a practical solution for those people who can't really walk away from their current responsibilities and obligations, such as studying, such as supporting, such as taking care of family, and in through which they can gradually reach the goal of a designation. Okay, and that what that designation is about, inshallah, we're going to share that with you as we go through this presentation. So once again, we're an in-class and an online platform targeting people who are busy studying and people who are busy working, right? And what is it that we're offering them? Traditional Islamic studies at every level. We will start from a basic level, an introductory level, but the aim is to take people to an advanced level through which they can get a traditional designation that comes with an ijaza and an isnad. Ijaza basically is the authorization from a particular institution or sheikh, and the isnad is the what we call the transmission chain. You're basically lineage of teachers all the way to the primary source, right? And finally, it's a place that produces the future contributors to Islamic academics, right? We don't want Islamic academia to remain stagnant. It should always be on the move. There should be new material that should be coming out, addressing every type of audience and providing every type of solution to the current day situations and circumstances that we face. So our philosophy is Islamic academics should never become stagnant, right? It should always be on the move. It should always be producing. It should always be providing solutions to everyday matters. Now, moving forward, what does the Institute currently offer? Well, there's a number of programs. Some of the active programs that we have right now are the ones that you can see on your screen. We have the Islamic Essentials, we have Quran orientation courses, we have the Scholar of Islamic Sciences. And along with that, we do have an Imamate program and a Tajweed program. When it comes to the programs that are right now active, we have the Islamic Essentials program. And what is this really? This really is the foundation, right, for further Islamic studies, for advanced Islamic studies. You have to have some background. You have to have a foundation to stand on before you start constructing this building, right? So Islamic Essentials is really providing Muslims with clarity and confidence in Islam while living in the West, right? We do have, alhamdulillah, many of us born in Muslim families. Alhamdulillah, we've got some orientation on our tradition. But thing is that we are living with a clash of philosophies. There's a mindset and a philosophy inside our house, and then there's the overwhelming and dominant philosophies outside the house. And I use the plural on purpose. And what happens is navigating through all of this while trying to maintain our Islamic identity and to remain true to it becomes very challenging when we don't have the answers. Okay, when we don't have the answers. And this is what this is trying to do. It's providing clarity in those areas and providing the confidence while traversing those areas, while now going and trekking in those areas. So that's what we want to do, is pretty much build that confident Muslim with absolute clarity on the foundational issues of Islam. And we accomplish that by studying Islamic creed. And when we say Islamic creed, we're talking about tackling the different types of ideologies and philosophies that are being thrown to us, through which we start questioning our own beliefs. We tackle those issues face on. Okay, we basically provide the answers that are required for that clarity. So now a person is at peace with their beliefs. Ritual practices, well, that's an integral component of our spirituality in order for us to build a healthy relationship with Allah. And we also talk about Islamic conduct and behavior, where we're trying to show that our beloved Prophet ﷺ's conduct and character is truly the best that is out there, not as a slogan, but practically showing that and demonstrating that and providing tips for us to apply that in our day-to-day lives so we can become replicas of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the very being who Allah has praised in the Quran, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that you're definitely on a exemplary character. The other thing that we're now focusing on is Quran orientation. So for a while, what we did is that we had this program, and whoever completed it, alhamdulillah, they've got the confidence, they've got the clarity, and off they go in society. However, what happens is that there were a number of our students that wanted to continue these studies. They wanted to pursue further studies, but not necessarily wanting a designation of a sort, right? So there is that type of that class of people that we definitely had to cater for, and we decided to come up with this one of many programs that are to be launched. This is the first of them, and we call it the Quran Orientation Program. And what basically is going on here is we're trying to develop an inseparable connection between Muslim and the Quran. Okay, that the Quran is part of their daily lives, not just in terms of recitation, but in terms of actually serving as a guide for them in their day-to-day lives, right? They look at this as a primary reference point for their day-to-day lives. Now, how do we accomplish that? Well, the first and foremost is it's important for us to know the history of revelation and compilation so that we are clear in our faith in the Quran. And what do I mean by that? Is that there's enough material out there in today's internet on the web that will definitely rock the faith and the confidence in the accuracy of the Quran, okay, for those people who are oblivious to this history. So it's important for us to be acquainted with the history in order to solidify our belief in the Quran and not be rocked by any question that will hit the oblivious mind and thus, put them in shaky waters or in shaky grounds, I should say, when it comes to their connection with the Quran. So first and foremost, solidify the belief and the confidence in the Quran. After that, you're going to have biographies of the exegetes amongst the Sahaba and the Tabi'un. When you look at a tafsir, you're going to find certain people that are often quoted. You'll see the names such as Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, Mujahid rahimahullah, Ikrama, names like this, you're going to see often quoted. But it's important for us to know who those people are so that we can understand what weight their words hold and why they're being quoted. Okay, and these are the primary exegetes amongst that class of people, the Sahaba and the Tabi'un. So hence, it's important for us to be acquainted with who they are, and therefore we have the confidence in what they are saying. Finally, we move on to studying the works of the major exegesis, right? The works of major exegetes. So there's 12 tafsirs in total that we give orientation to our students on. So this serves as a reference point for them if they need further clarification on a particular verse or a set of verses. And finally, we do a cover-to-cover study of the Quran in this particular program, starting off from Fatiha, ending off at Nas, doing around 25 verses per lesson, in which we are not doing tafsir particularly, but we are extracting the practical lessons that we can apply, okay? Practical lessons that we can apply in our day-to-day lives immediately. Okay, so making the Quran pragmatic and showing that how the Quran contributes to your day-to-day life and how it can serve as a compass, because it is a compass for every Muslim, right? So now what happens here is once you've gone to the entire Quran, you've basically got the entire Quran mapped out in front of you. You know exactly what subject matter is being discussed where, so you've got a reference point. Now, when you go there and you need further details, you've got now clarification on what type of tafsirs, what types of works you can refer to for further clarification and further details. And in those details, you're going to see these names that are being presented, like the Ibn Abbases and the Ubay bin Ka'abs and the Ikramas and the Mujahids and all that. You know exactly who they are because you've had orientation on them. And as a result, you've got the clarity now. Okay, this is the backward map now. You've got the clarity, and the Quran thus can be a part of your day-to-day lives, which is pretty much the goal here. And you don't need a designation for this, right? So this is some of the programs that we are currently offering at the moment, right? And for further programs and details on them, I highly encourage that you go to our website, inshallah, and study what the Institute has to offer. Again, my focus today is really this program, the Scholar of Islamic Sciences. The reason I wanted to show you those two programs is first, I wanted to show you the foundation where we start our journey, okay, in this institute, and how far we can go now without having to necessarily attain a designation. And for those who are eager to pursue a designation, well, this is one of the designations that we are offering, a Scholar of Islamic Sciences. Now, what does this program entail? Inshallah, we're going to get into that. The first thing is that it's important for us to identify what is a traditional scholar of Islam. Okay. Now, there is no real hard and fast definition, right? There is no hard and fast definition. A scholar of Islam is going to be different region to region, place to place, community to community. So the way a scholar of Islam is going to be identified in the South Asian region is going to be different to how it's going to be identified, or they're going to be identified in the Arab regions, or in the North African regions, or in the Eastern Asian regions, or even in the Northern or in the Russian regions, right? Everyone's got a different definition of what a traditional scholar of Islam is going to look like, what makes them qualified as an Islamic scholar. So there is no uniform definition, okay? And there's no universal curriculum. You have to understand that. There's no universal curriculum. However, the way I wanted to break it down, depending on how a person has been qualified in the region that they are in, you're going to really have now three types of Islamic scholars, right? You're going to have three types of Islamic scholars. And I wanted to basically get you to understand them through this metaphor. So one is going to be a well. And what we mean by that is they are oriented with traditional works and can navigate through them, but they're pretty much stagnant. I mean, they've got that inside them, they've internalized it, they've got the skill set to navigate, but it's sitting there. It's not being tapped into unless someone actively taps into it, just like a well. A well is sitting there with water, and no one is going to benefit from that water until they actively go throw in the bucket and draw out the water. Okay, but beyond that, basically the well is just going to sit there. So you have one type of scholar that's oriented and has got the skill set to navigate, okay, but not going to really make any contributions unless they're prompted to, unless someone is approaching them. That's one type of scholar. There's another type of scholar which I call a fountain. So what they do is they're imparting that knowledge to those that approach them, but it's a very thing, it's regional, it's confined to a particular space. Just like a fountain is confined to a particular space. It's going to irrigate its immediate surroundings, but it's only going to be confined to the immediate surroundings. So now those people who are going to go to the well, they can benefit. I should say the fountain, they definitely are going to benefit, right? So basically there's an active gushing of water, and such as in this scholar, active gushing of knowledge that people can avail of if they provided they go to that scholar and they sit down in their lessons, in their halaqas and so forth, and learn from them. Thing is though, that once this scholar goes, then basically that knowledge also goes. Okay, that knowledge also goes. So if it's just going to be lectures, if it's just going to be different lessons and so forth, yeah, people will benefit for a particular period of time, but then once that scholar is gone, the benefit also finishes, and its benefits are not necessarily going to be long-lived, okay? Because there's nothing tangible that is really left behind, okay? And then you have a river, what I call a river. Someone that's actively keeping the tradition alive while adapting to different circumstances. So now one is that they're actively going out there, producing works, giving solutions, putting material in people's hand. That material can live on for generations, right? And such as the material that you and I are availing from today, right? Like some of the books that you can see behind me, these books were written hundreds of years ago, some 500, some 600, some 1300 years ago. But today, here we are sitting, benefiting from those works and getting assistance through those works to try and understand how to navigate in our current circumstances, what solutions we can provide that are going to keep us within the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sharia. Okay, so these are the three types of scholars that we typically come across in the world. So a well, a fountain, or a river. Okay, just like a river now is flowing with water all the time, and from that river, you're getting little creeks that are formed. It's basically now irrigating all of this land that is around it for miles and miles. Okay, and basically its effects are long-lived. So this is basically what we're focusing on in our institute. We want to try and produce rivers, not just wells and fountains, but rivers. Okay. So again, what are we trying to produce? Well, basically, our focus is this: a new generation of scholars, of Islamic scholars, that will, number one, produce new material in different disciplines, especially for Anglophones, right? Given that we are living in the West, we know that Anglophones are highly underserved. The material is relatively limited in comparison to what you find in Arabic. In Arabic, there's just oceans and oceans and oceans of material. And in other languages, such as the Persian language, the Urdu language, there is so much material that is out there. But when you look at English, English is rather limited in its options. So given that we are living in the West and English is pretty much going to be the standard medium for the foreseeable future, we do want to help people by producing new material through the lens of traditional Islamic sciences, in which people can now guide themselves in their journey of spirituality, in the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and provide pragmatic guidance and solutions for the socio-religious needs of the community in light of the sacred texts. So what we are doing is we're bridging the gap between text and context, right? Text is married with context, and as a result, pragmatic solutions are provided. We don't want to provide abstract and hypothetical solutions, solutions that sound good in the classroom, but have no practical reality to them. No, because the whole point of Islam is to practice. That's the whole point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ladina amanu wa amilu salihat. He doesn't say this, Inna ladina amanu wa alimu salihat. He doesn't say that. He says, indeed, those people who have adopted the faith, amanu, and they carry out good deeds, not know good deeds. Okay, alimu is to know, amilu is to practice. So the whole point of all of this is to put into practice, but you can only practice something that is pragmatic, something that is hypothetical, something that sounds good, but there's no practical reality behind it. It's not really going to solve our problem. What we have living as a Muslim minority in the West, we have a whole bunch of issues that we need to solve in order to preserve Islam for the future generations. Well, first and foremost, within us. Preserve Islam in us, in our immediate families, and the future generations. That's only going to happen once people get direction, and direction that is going to be practical. Okay, so that's pretty much what our focus is, right? This new generation, we want to achieve and accomplish these two main goals, right? Now, what are we going to teach? Right? Now that we understand that a scholar of Islamic sciences is something that we need to pursue, we understand that basically it's a long-term commitment, because if you think about the options that were available, especially like the options in my time, back in the 90s, right? I mean, I went off to England in 1990 and came back from England in 2001. So 11 years I was away from home, from Canada. Right? And there in those 11 years, staying away from home, all of my basically studies, my development, all of that was there in another land, in another type of culture, because British culture is different to Canadian in many ways, especially when it comes to the Muslim communities. They have, there's different dynamics, right? There's different dynamics, different realities, different challenges, okay? So you pretty much only had those options back in those days. But now what we have is those options are here. However, now there's an issue of time commitment. Okay, that yes, it demands a lot of time and energy, but then what it's doing now is pretty much limiting the opportunities for the people who want to pursue it. So now how can we open up more channels? How can we open up more doors? So this is pretty much the template that we have come up with, right? As a template. And and understand, we're not trying to provide something that's a fast and quick solution. Okay, that's not what we're trying to do. We want to try and uphold the integrity of Islamic sciences, but try and find ways for people who can't make that sacrifice because of the circumstances that they're in to completely divorce themselves of society and seclude themselves in an institution for a number of years and just focus on this, right? We want to provide and open up more doors and opportunities. So what are we going to do at this institute when it comes to this particular program? Well, we have a 9-year program. Now, when you hear 9 years, it's going to be completely thing. Uh, it's going to hit some people a bit hard. I mean, that's like a complete decade of my life. Yes, it is, but look how it's being presented, right? You can continue living your life, continue fulfilling your domestic obligations, getting a livelihood and so forth while pursuing this designation at your pace. So it's a 9-year program that's broken down into 3 sections. Okay, there's going to be three parts, 3 major milestones, I will call it. So year 1 to 3, we are going to provide orientation on all major disciplines. Okay, the disciplines of Islamic sciences, or the disciplines of Islam, you can say, studies. We are going to provide orientation on all of them. Now, I'm going to provide further details as we go forth, but right now I'm just giving you an overview. So year 1 to 3 is orientation of all major disciplines. Now, this is done in the English language. The language that's going to be taught, or the language that's going to be taught in, is English. We're maintaining that medium. And what was the thought process behind this? Now, if you go within the South Asian regions and Islamic institutions that are set up there, what you are going to find is that in the beginning, you are to study the Arabic language. And as you are studying the Arabic language, sorry, as you're studying the Arabic language, you're now at the same time being introduced to different principles of Islamic studies, different material in the Arabic language, which now you're supposed to understand. You're supposed to now understand the concepts. You're supposed to understand some of the arguments and so forth in a language that you're still trying to get a grasp on. Now, what that does, it becomes overwhelming for the student, and therefore you have a huge dropout rate in the beginning. Okay, I remember that when I went to study, my class was actually a class of 60 students. But when we graduated as only 22 students. Okay, so that's a big dropout rate. So people drop out because what's happening is you're studying a language that you're not really acquainted with, and then material and concepts of different disciplines in that language that you're still trying to get a grasp on. So now what happens is when that person drops out, they've really not accomplished much, because how's Arabic grammar on the basic level going to help them now in their day-to-day lives? Very quickly, they're going to discard that. They're going to walk away, and either 1 to 3 years of their life has been wasted. Okay, so what we decided to do is like, how can we save people from wasting time or having their time wasted? Not wasting time, but having their time wasted. And how can we ensure that every part of this journey is going to enrich them? It's going to make sure that they are always in a gain. So at any point, if they were to walk away, they walked away with something. They walked away with something that is going to be of benefit to them for years to come. It's not something that now they will not be able to connect with. There's no use for it in their life. No, that's not the approach. So orientation of all major disciplines. Now, once we've done that, now we go to the second part, which is Arabic. Now we're going to start pursuing the language as a language, and I'll break down as to what we're going to study in these 3 years. And finally, specialization in one discipline. Okay, specialization in one discipline. What we are trying to do is not create people who are oriented. We're not trying to create people who are oriented in the sciences. So, like, for example, when I studied back in the days, if you basically are going into tafsir, you are covering one major tafsir work. And traditionally, you would study Jalalain, okay, by Jalaluddin Mahalli and Jalaluddin Suyuti. It's a combination of two authors' works. Or you're going to study the tafsir of Baghwi, depending on what institution you're on. But really, or in, I should say. But really, what's happening is you're just getting an orientation and a very beginner level type of tafsir connection. You're not by any means of the word becoming a mufassir, by any means of the word. Or if it comes to fiqh, for example, yes, there are years of fiqh in which you are basically going up the ladder from discussing mild issues to more complex issues. Okay, but by no means are you going to be a mujtahid. By no means are you going to be a person that's grounded in the usul and the principles of what goes on behind the scenes of these regulations and the formation of these regulations. And same thing with when it comes to hadith studies. Again, you're getting orientation. You're basically now covering the major works of hadith hadith literature. You're covering the major works, but you're doing at a pace that is hard for the mind and for the attention to keep up. Like, say, for example, with us, we would be doing 10 hours of study, 10 hours of class, I should say, in our final year, in which we're studying the 6 major books of hadith, right? Now, it's like basically what's happening is you're just reading through the material and you get what you get. And whatever you don't get, well, you're not really going to get the time to go back to it because there's more material to cover on the next day and the next day. And that was 6 days a week. Okay, from Monday to Saturday. The only day you got off was on Sunday. Okay, so really what you're walking away with is orientation. You don't really have a solid grasp. Okay, and you don't have really I would say an in-depth connection with those sciences. You just basically at the surface level. What we want to do is create specialization, but only in one discipline. Concentrate in one area, really develop yourself so now you can start contributing in a healthy fashion in that area, right? In that field. Now, the way it's structured is going to be 6 courses a year. Okay, 6 courses a year. Each course is 12 lessons. Okay, each course is 12 lessons. Now you do the math. Okay, so throughout the entire year, we have got 6 courses. Each course is 12 lessons. And there's going to be 2 lessons that are going to be delivered on the weeknights. And each lesson is 3 hours. So you're spending 6 hours a week. Okay, you're spending 6 hours a week. That's broken into 2. So 3 hours on one night, 3 hours on another night, and your weekends are completely free. So you can spend that time with your family, with your friends. Your life is not being disrupted. Yes, but you do have to give a sacrifice, right? Of 6 hours a week, broken down into 3 hours each session. Okay, so that's pretty much what is being demanded of the person that is enrolled in the program. All right. So now let's go into a bit more detail as to what this program entails. All right. So when I was saying that from year 1 to year 3, we're basically giving orientation on the major Islamic disciplines. What I'm going to show you very briefly as an overview, and you can get more details on our website. When you go to the link that is provided for the Islamic Scholars page, you can get more details as to what is being taught there. The one thing is, yes, we have not listed the material, the actual books that are going to be taught. Okay, that is done deliberately. Okay, that's done deliberately. For those people who do want to know what books are being taught in what area, we will inform you. Okay, but but basically putting out the entire all the information that is out there, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, so basically what we will do is in year 1, we start off our journey by studying the history of the 4 caliphs. And the way we're trying to study this is we want to show how the different circumstances in those eras shaped the different fields of Islamic discipline. Where was their Bismillah? Where was the beginning? What influenced the beginning? And how it started developing from there. So you basically can connect it to its roots. Okay, and you've got clarity as to why a particular approach is adopted in a particular discipline, what influenced that. Okay, so that's why we study the history of the four caliphs. It's not just a matter of just getting an orientation, but we're pinpointing and identifying. Okay, at this point in time, this is what started, and this is how it's going to start to develop from here. Then we are going to do comparative creed, in which, because the main thing that that you see in the beginning, the differences are in creed. So what we do is we study a standard text. The text that we study is Imam Abu Hanifa's Fiqh al-Akbar, alongside with Umar al-Nasafi's book Sharh al-Aqaid, okay, in which we're showing a Maturidi type of viewpoint. And on the other side, we're showing Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah's viewpoints. So you're basically getting a holistic picture as to how different scholars of different eras and ideologies and backgrounds approached a particular issue, right, of creed. So basically, that's what we're showing here, giving you a bigger picture rather than just showing you one picture and saying that this is the end all. Because we have to respect that Islamic scholarship is something that was developing throughout time. Multiple contributors are there, and they bring perspectives based on a particular context that they're living in, which you need to be acquainted with. Context is what drives material, right? And then after, we also do comparative analysis in the different sects. The two sects that we target is Ithna Ashari and Ahmadi, where we're now going to study their texts, not third-party material, their own texts, and do a comparative analysis of how this weighs in front of the Quran and the Sunnah, how consistent it is, how off it is, where it's stemming from. So the actual the first book on Ithna Ashari Creed, we study that, and also Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's works. We also study, we read directly from it and showing it where this person started from, what types of teachings he's offering, and how consistent or how much they're in disparity with the Quran and the confirmed teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, you're basically seeing a classical era and you're seeing contemporary issues and having clarity as to how we navigate in these issues. Then we have foundations of tafsir, because our whole goal is to connect people to the Quran. So it's important for people to understand all the different rules, application, history of tafsir, what goes into play. So there's 3 courses. So I said 6 courses a year, right? So you've got 3, and then these 3 are from the foundations of tafsir, which carries on to the second year. In the second year, we conclude with 1 more course on the foundations of tafsir. So you're studying principles, you're studying the ma'arif of the Quran, and so forth. Okay, and then we move on to the next thing of hadith origins and evolution. It's important for a person to understand exactly what that journey looks like, how hadith started, its sciences, the people who contributed to it, the different what's it called, rules of authentication. When did they come about? How did they come about? Why they came about? How they continue to develop? How a standard in one era was not really embraced in a latter era. All of that whole picture needs to be shown, especially in a time like today, where people are loosely just dismissing this entire science, which is, it really gets me worked up, right? And that's something that we want to every student to be acquainted with. They need to know that history. And we then go and study the biographies and the methodologies of the 4 imams of fiqh. Now there's a typo there, I just noticed that, so please ignore that. So biographies and methodologies of the 4 imams of fiqh, understanding what era they were born in, how they were raised, what challenges they went to, how they adopted the studies, how they developed their fiqh. That's all important to know in order for us to understand why a particular viewpoint has been adopted by one imam and not another. Okay, and why did they develop that principle? What influenced them to function by this principle? All of that orientation is required in order for us to get absolute clarity on the approaches of these 4 madhabs. And now we are going to finish off the year with fiqh and hadith. We have a standard book on fiqh that is supplemented with a book of hadith and showing the connection between the two. Now, the fiqh that we concentrate on is Hanafi fiqh. The book that we're studying is Quduri, and the hadith book that we're supplementing it with is called Al-Lu'lu' wal Marjan, which is a compilation of the ahadith of Bukhari, which has also been recorded in Sahih Muslim, and then it's also in the book. So now we're going to show the connection between hadith and fiqh, and showing that fiqh is not just conjecture, it's traced back. It's actually traced back to prophetic guidance. And that's important for all of us to have confidence in and see the connection. Because if we don't see that connection, it's just a slogan, and slogans don't really have much effect. Now we go to year 3, and in year 3, we're going to finish off the entire year with this particular field of study, fiqh and hadith. So in fiqh, what are we going to study? We're going to study all of the ritual aspects of Islam, and we're going to move on to marriage and divorce. We're going to talk about the penal law, so people have clarity when, you've got, unfortunately, the Islamophobes that want to throw dirt on Islam using regulations of penal law against Muslims. So we need to educate people as to what that all entails, its context, its application, and so forth. And at the same time, it's important for people to be aware of things regarding military campaigns, which is also studied. And so people know that, the narrative that we heard so much of terrorism is based on nothing but lies. That needs to be studied. So all of that we cover. Now that we've completed the first leg of this journey, okay, the first leg of this journey, we move on to the second leg of Arabic. Okay, so now here, if a person was to walk away after these 3 years, yes, they're not going to get a designation. Of course they won't. They're not going to be qualified as an Islamic scholar by any means of the word. But they're going to have knowledge with them that's definitely going to be of benefit for them, their families, and for other people as well. They can share that. That's knowledge that's going to give clarity on these hard-pressing issues in society. But by no means of the word are they now an Islamic scholar. They've got orientation on, and that's what we said, it's orientation on these issues. Now we go into Arabic, and we go through a journey of starting off with the basics of Arabic grammar and morphology, a big emphasis on morphology as well. And then we will move on to year 5 by studying the basic to intermediate Arabic text, in which there's going to be an application of the rules. Basically, what we are focusing on in our Arabic program, it's not a vocabulary-based program that you identify with Arabic through vocabulary, because that's one approach. My understanding and my experience dictates that that will never give you 100% accuracy in translation and comprehension. Okay, because you're really just playing with words, and based on what makes sense to you, you will go ahead and make a translation and deduce from that what you need to deduce, which, more times than not, you will make an inaccurate translation when it comes to more complex text. Yeah, when it comes to basic ABC type of text, a person can easily do that through vocabulary. But now go on into the text that we want to go into, right? Such as the major works of Islamic scholars. That approach is not going to really work. So the approach that we have is an approach that is founded on knowing the grammar and the morphology and doing a translation in light of that, so you accurately understand what the author is trying to say and accurately deduce what you need to deduce from that. Okay, so this is the application component. And then finally, we'll move on from intermediate to advanced texts, okay, in which there's a big focus on the eloquence aspect, which is called adab, building composition skills, where people will now be able to write papers in Arabic, okay, starting off with sentences to paragraphs to pages and so forth, which I'm currently doing with my class right now. And study of Arabic poetry, because in order for us to appreciate the Quran, poetry is indispensable. You have to study poetry, because poetry was basically the influential medium of communication back in the days of the Arabs. Okay, back in the days of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, poetry is what was it was the medium that you got your message out through. So in order for us to appreciate how powerful the Quran is, we have to be acquainted with poetry. Okay, so and then you're going to see how powerful the Quran is, because the Quran, it's neither fitting in prose nor is it poetry. It's something, for example, right? When you come across a verse of the Quran, just like an FYI, a verse of the Quran is not necessarily a sentence. One verse of the Quran can be 3 sentences, it could be 4 sentences, or one verse of the Quran can be part of a sentence, which is completed in another verse. So that really doesn't fit the rules of prose. And it's not poetry because it's not composed in couplets. Okay, so when you see that it's neither fitting under prose, it's neither fitting under poetry, it's something that's above this, and it's so beautiful, and its style varies from surah to surah, coming from a man that has no literacy skills. Wow, this is just next level. But you can only appreciate it for what it is when you go through this little journey. So now what we want to do is, by the time this individual has passed these 3 years, they've got the skill set to now take up any Arabic text and decipher it. They've got the skill set to compose their own Arabic material. They've got the skill set to appreciate the Quran for what it is, right? And then finally comes year 6 to 9, which is specialization of one discipline. And that's going to be chosen by the class. At the moment, because of limited resources, we can only offer the class one discipline out of the ones that we're offering, which is going to be of the class's choice. But as we develop as an institution, inshallah, we have more resources, then a student is not bound by the entire class. They can go ahead and choose whatever they want and study and focus on that for 3 years. Now, why 3 years on just one discipline? Because remember, we're not focused on just giving orientation. We're focused on providing or producing the next generation of contributors. And for that, you need to be focused. Okay, you need to be well ingrained in those areas. So with that being said, one discipline is the tafsir of the Quran. That's one of the disciplines. And what is the goal? It's to create people who can write commentaries in light of the current context on select passages or surahs of the Quran or on the entire Quran. So basically what we want right now is individuals who can now make the Quran relatable to every segment of society. Okay, from basically people with just post-secondary education to high-level academics, right? Basically what we want is that this Quran resonates with all audiences, and there's going to be different languages, different approaches to the select audience that you are targeting. Okay, rather than just relying on classical works which have been translated into English, which many a times may fly above a reader's head. It doesn't really resonate, and you can't have that connection that you need in order for the Quran to serve as a compass. So that's why 3 years just focusing on this and developing the skill set to try and accomplish this. And so what's going to be the methodology? The methodology is going to be, obviously, study the advanced principles of exegesis. You got orientation in the first 3 years, but now we're going to take it to the next level, right? And teach application, okay? Because that's important, understanding the principles and seeing the application, right? And then doing a comparative analysis of major classical tafsir works. So the ones that have been highly referenced within the Islamic tradition, okay, within the classical tradition. It's important for us to have orientation on them. And then the way we want to get oriented, obviously we need to know who these mufassirs are, what era they lived in, what was their goal for their tafsir. That's so important because each mufassir has got a separate goal. Okay, one is basically the goal of just trying to deduce the rulings of a particular madhab, like Qurtubi, or whether it's going to be providing a hadith-based tafsir, connecting the Quran with hadith and providing rulings from that for a particular madhab, such as Ibn Kathir and so forth. You have to understand what the objective of the mufassir is. What was it that they were trying to accomplish through their tafsir, and why one tafsir varies from another, because no two tafsirs are exactly identical. So you do a comparative analysis by focusing on a verse and then seeing that this mufassir tackled this verse like this, and this is what the objective was, and so forth. You do that with multiple scholars. So now your horizon is opening, and you can see how the Quran is an endless ocean, and the world of tafsir has not been exhausted. More contributions can be made, and inshallah will be made, and we're just trying to be a piece, play a small part in that journey. Okay, so comparative analysis, and then after that, you're going to start with, papers on select passages. So in order to get the orientation, you select passages of the Quran, and now you're going to cite what different mufassirs are saying. This is the training phase, okay? And then after that, we move on to surahs. So one is verses, then to surahs doing the same thing. And then after that, one complete surah in which we're now trying to get people to offer their perspective based on the context that they're in. That how can this verse solve today's solutions, or how can it be applicable in today's day and age? Okay, so that's the end goal. The end goal is to provide an explanation to the audience in which the Quran is applicable, it's practical, it's relatable in today's time. It's not an ancient text that is simply celebrated. No, it's a compass. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, inshallah, through this particular discipline. That's why you need a good 3 years just to focus on this and develop the skill set to do that, inshallah. Okay. The second thing is hadith studies. What is the goal? To create commentators on hadith literature who can contextualize the material in light of multiple reports. Now, when I say multiple reports, what is hadith? Hadith is really anecdotes, and anecdotes that sometimes are giving you a picture of the incident, but to get the complete picture, now you're going to have to study other texts that is relating the same type of incident, but different aspects of it. Different reporters are reporting the same thing, but one reporter, he adds this information while another reporter adds another piece of information. So to get the complete picture, you need to study the multiple reports. After you've done that, now you get clarity on what the incident was all about, which is going to help in the application of this hadith in today's era. So give that training, okay? Offer clarity on its application in the modern world. We want to show that the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is timeless. It's not something that was limited to the deserts of Arabia in the 14th centuries ago. No, it's something that is timeless. It is applicable today. It is applicable all the way to the day of judgment, and we want to show it as the superior teachings of humanity. There's no teaching on this planet that supersedes the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we need to demonstrate that. Okay, and that's going to only happen when you're going to have people that have got the ability to produce that type of material. And protect the integrity of hadith literature by acquainting students with the biographies of the reporters, because as I have said earlier on, we have this trend where people are now casually dismissing the entire field of hadith, not understanding what they're dismissing. Do you know the amount of people that have contributed to this? Do you know who you're dismissing? Where does your life compare to them? Do you even know what their background is, the sacrifices they've made, what they attained, what they accomplished? That's really important to know. So when you're reading a hadith isnad, they're not just random names. You know who is who and how powerful of a reporter or how reliable of a reporter they are. So how can you dismiss someone that you don't know and you were not there to see? Okay. Okay. And finally, the method that's going to be adopted: study the advanced principles of hadith verification and classification. So basically, usul hadith. We're going to study that and see its evolution, because as time goes by, rules slightly changed, and each scholar has got their unique rules. That's important to know. The way Imam Bukhari authenticates hadith is not the same way that Imam Muslim authenticates hadith. The way Imam Nasa'i authenticates it is not the same way as Imam Tirmidhi authenticates it. They've got their nuances, which is important to know. And then you know that hadith is, when it says it's sahih, it doesn't mean it's a title that came down from the sky. is basically one scholar's conclusion based on a criteria that they adopted, and it's important to know that criteria. Comparative analysis of major hadith source books, which I was alluding to. Study select commentaries so you understand what the style and the approach is to commentating on hadith. So now we can produce material for Anglophones, inshallah, in the West. Study the biographies of hadith reporters, which I also alluded to, and papers on select hadiths, focusing on contextualization and modern day application. That is so important. So we want to make hadith a living piece of literature, not something that is only quoted for the sake of exhorting people to do a good deed in your Juma talks, or just be using as ammunition to prove that you're right and the other person is wrong. No, hadith is much more than that. Okay, it's the compass that Allah has given us in the Quran by telling us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what does he do? وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُم مَّا لَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ. He's teaching you the scripture, he's teaching you wisdom, and he's teaching you things you never knew. Okay, so that's why we're told to obey him and to listen to him. The final thing that we offer is fiqh. And what we're trying to do in fiqh is to create researchers on classical and contemporary fiqh, focusing on the fiqh of Muslim minority communities, us in the West. Okay, we live as a minority. We have different challenges in different regions. We have to provide pragmatic solutions in light of the tradition that we have. Okay, so we want to now produce research works that will become a point of reference for scholars and muftis. So these works are not going to be fatwas in any shape or form. They're actually going to be reference points. It's something that people can avail from. They can look at these perspectives, they can look at all this research, and it now is going to make life easy for them. Or what it's going to do, it's going to give them some form of a direction that, hey, this is a perspective that definitely we can explore or even use, right, to provide solutions to the issues that we're facing as Muslim minorities. All right, so what is the methodology? Obviously, study contemporary usul al-fiqh, because usul al-fiqh is something that went through evolution as time went by. Yes, lately it has stagnated, which we've had conversations with elderly scholars on this. It has stagnated as of late, but it went through a lot of evolution to the point where it is today. Okay, and study early and latter texts of the three major schools, when the ones I'm identifying is the Hanafi, the Maliki, and the Shafi'i. Look at the earliest works and look at the latter day works and see how conclusions have varied on particular issues, why they varied, what are they sourcing themselves back to. Okay, so that you can see that fiqh is not something that is absolute. It changes based on circumstance. It changes based on conditions. Okay, so you're getting acquainted with two different eras of the same madhab and how things changed. All right. Study of contemporary fiqh issues, and there's a lot of that work out there. So you need to understand how contemporary issues are being tackled, right? And then papers on select issues focusing on pragmatic, principle-based solutions, principle-based. Not just based on conjecture and I think so. No, it's sourced back to a principle based on which this conclusion or this perspective is being offered. And now it's for the scholars and the muftis to decide whether that's something that's usable for them or not. But you basically are making a huge contribution in this line, right? So that being said, it's important for us to give this line attention, because Allah told us to give it attention. Now, before going there, we do have our faculty. Alhamdulillah, we're joined by all of them today, who you can, inshallah, ask questions to. We have with us Dr. Sharik, we have Ustad Tamsil, we have Sheikh Abdullah Mullani. These are all our staff. Now, I'm not going to get into the biographies of each. You can go online right now, go to the Mathabah website. Under the About Us section, you're going to see the section on faculty, and you can read up on the biographies of each and every single one of our faculty. And alhamdulillah, basically for the most part, you can see that our faculty has pretty much undergone this journey. Okay, I also forgot to mention Sheikh Yusuf. So Sheikh Yusuf Bada, who's the founder of the Mathabah Institute. So basically, This is our faculty. We have this pool and we're extending that, we're expanding that, inshallah, by training new graduates to come aboard and also contribute in this. This is something that we're going to continue to grow. More staff, more resources, more ways to serve. So we are going to give this attention because Allah told us to give attention to it. When you look at Surah At-Tawbah, chapter 9, verse number 122, فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ وَلِيُنذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَحْذَرُونَ. So Allah is saying that why doesn't a party from each group go forth to attain a thorough understanding of the religion so that they may warn their people when they return to them? Perhaps they may become cautious. You have a segment of the community that is now dedicated to getting advanced Islamic knowledge, coming back and explaining to people the parameters of Allah and what we need to stay inside in order for us to succeed in this world and the world hereafter. And this is something that's going to live on after our death. This is why we're focused on building people who are going to produce material. Okay, building people is going to produce material. So this material lives. Okay, not the well and not the fountain, where the well can dry out and the fountain can also stop. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ has told us that إذا مات الميت, إذا مات الإنسان, when a person passes away, انقطع عمله, the reward of their deeds, okay, it ceases except in three areas. And one is sadaqatun jariyah, an ongoing charitable act. Ilmun yuntafa'u bihi, knowledge through which benefit is being attained. And number three, waladun salihun yad'una, a pious child praying for them. These three things will continue to benefit a person in their grave. And if you think about it, if we embark on this journey, that in itself, the amount of knowledge we're going to spread and we're going to influence people to do good, that's sadaqah jariyah right there. The knowledge is being benefited from by the literature that we have left behind. And definitely we're going to have a lot of people praying for us, inshallah, if we've served them with sincerity in a genuine fashion. And this is found in Imam Tirmidhi's Jamia. So this pretty much brings me to the conclusion of our presentation today. I have gone a bit over time, but I did want to try and present as much as I could. There's a lot more details, and I'm sure you're going to have quite a few questions. So therefore, I am going to open it up to Q&A, inshallah, for those of us who want to look more into the program or are now interested in enrolling. We are going to be starting this program in January. The date is yet to be released, inshallah. We will release that very soon, but we're looking at January, inshallah. So if a person now wants to embark on this journey, which is going to benefit multiple people throughout generations, inshallah, well, you can go on the link that is provided and you can register today, inshallah. So now I will open it up to Q&A. We have our moderator, Umair, inshallah. So inshallah, I'll hand it over to him.
So Sheikh Umair is not available, so inshallah I can read the questions and we can answer them as appropriate.
Of course.
So the first one here we have is, so exactly which courses are taught each year, which books are used, who teaches which courses. So I think you've answered that a little bit during the course of your presentation. This came early in the presentation. So if this is not answered, and in terms of who teaches, I answered in the chat that it's a function of the course being offered and the faculty that's available to teach. So I think that question has been answered.
Basically, the faculty that I've introduced at the end, all of that faculty is going to be teaching one course or another, inshallah.
Right, inshallah. The next question is, how many hours of commitment per week is required to successfully complete this program?
That was answered.
Right. So
that's 6 hours a week broken into 3-hour sections. So 3 hours on one day, 3 hours on another day.
And I think later, Sheikh, there's a thing about the homework as well. So I think personal work, I think we need to just give them an idea. I guess from my personal experience, when we did it, it was a little bit more because it was a few more courses. But in the Pursuers program, would you say maybe, so if it's 6 hours of lectures, maybe another 3 to 4 hours per week of reading?
Readings and a homework, spread out. It varies from the type of work that is being assigned.
Right, inshallah. Okay, I think we've answered that one. Then the question comes is there any specific madhab being taught? So we answered that's Hanafi madhab primarily that's being taught in classes.
Well,
And then,
that's just in the orientation phase, right?
right, so
And when we
exactly,
get into the specialization, then it's not focused on just one madhab.
right. So then the continuing of the question, it says, do you also consider Shafi'i fiqh when deriving solutions to everyday problems?
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be there in the specialization thing
Right,
phase, which I explained.
right. So who designed the program is the next question. And
Uh, yeah, it was this individual that's just made the
so, yeah,
presentation.
Sheikh Umar, mashallah. So I can talk a little bit about that, maybe, Sheikh, because you designed it. But we've been through. I mean, it's a combination of Dars al-Nidami text and some other texts which you have kind of combined to create this. Not just so it's a new curriculum. It's a different curriculum.
That's right.
That's actually the nice thing about it, and it's catered to our environment and what is relevant to us. So that's the unique thing about it, inshallah. Um, the next question, if I do 6 years at a different institute, can I do my specialty at Mathabah?
Well, we would have to now do an interview, see exactly what qualifications they have acquired, what they have studied, if they're at par with our standards, and of course, inshallah, we can facilitate that.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
exactly. Okay, inshallah. Next question is, so I think we've already talked about the hours and commitments, so that's thing. What is the average time expected? Yeah, so that's been discussed. Next is, when will the program start? You've also discussed that, and the admission process. I think you alluded to that at the end, but first thing is you have to apply online. You have to register, and that starts the process, because then when we have, so let's say by the end of December latest, the sooner the better, because we're going to start as soon as we get applications. We'll start contacting those people and setting up interviews.
That's
There
correct.
is an entry interview because it's a long program. This is a third batch. We already have 2 batches on the go, and we have always done interviews before entry because we want to gauge your commitment and also also your capacity as well, because there is a lot of volume of information that's going to come through. So inshallah ta'ala, and whether you can handle, you have the time or not. So we kind of go into that kind of process to make sure it's good for both of us.
Of
Mathabah,
course, we want to make sure that the individual is truly committed and they know what they're committing themselves to.
right,
If we feel that this is just not an area that's that they're not cut for at the moment, then we will have to inform them of that and not allow them to take the program for the time being. Maybe in the future, but right now it's not the time.
right. Okay. Next question is about the fiqh specialization. So the question is the same as IFTA course?
No, it isn't. No,
Right,
it's not an IFTA course. We're trying to create people who are researchers in fiqh and to provide papers and to provide perspectives on an issue. It's a mufti basically now is giving you a non-binding ruling. Rulings and research are two different things, right? So we're creating researchers that rulings can be based on, but we're not trying to create muftis. No.
right. Okay. Next one is it was just about the number, which days. I don't think, Sheikh, you mentioned which days of the week this was going to be taught. I think that is yet to be perhaps
At the
final.
moment, yes, at the moment is being taught on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the existing classes. Going forward, this particular class, we are going to release the times and the days, but it's looking to be Mondays and Wednesdays, right, to ensure that our faculty is available. But we are going to release that information very soon in the coming days, inshallah. It's going to come out within a few days, inshallah.
And the timings, if I can speak to it, I guess it varies, but it's essentially 7 to 9 or 6:30 to 9:30, depending on, I don't
That's
know
correct.
what's going on at the moment, because we have been flexible in the past, depending on the cohort that's with us. If it's people are working in, Scarborough or somewhere else, and they were driving in, so we have delayed started, the class start, we have delayed it, but then it goes longer too. So but roughly, Sheikh, is it at the moment running at 6:30 to 9:30?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah.
6:30 to 9:30 is the designated time.
Right. Okay. Um, So then there's a question, is I'm just curious, I'm a Hanafi, but how come the Hanbali madhab isn't covered? So I think Sheikh, you answered that in the latter stages. All of those is looked at in the specialty area, but not in the basic. I mean, when we're doing the
No,
first
actually,
2 years.
no, that's in the when it comes to the advanced or the specialization, the Hanbali madhab is not being covered because there's a big controversy within traditional Islamic scholars whether Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah's fiqh, or whether he really qualifies as a mujtahid or not, and how that fiqh is actually viewed. Yes, there is a following there, right? But put it like this: um, a simple thing like if there's three opinions on one particular issue that is given by different tabi'un or different sahaba, all of them are Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal's opinion. And just to give you an example, okay, so basically the thing that there has been um, this tug of war of really accepting Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah as a faqih. There's no doubt that he's a muhaddith, and he's definitely a person that's uh, qualified in jarh, in ta'dil, and so forth. But his status in fiqh, is that something that is universally accepted? The answer is no. It's not universally accepted. So therefore, we're just going to focus on those three,
Okay.
and it's more structured. The other three, they're more structured. They've basically they've developed a lot more throughout time.
Okay. We got a few questions here, Sheikh, and I think we're gonna just run through those quickly here. So next one is, do students need to do foundations courses first? How long is that part, assuming that is not part of the 9 years?
Yes, they do need to do that, but that only goes for what, 6 months,
Yes, exactly.
right?
So there's
6 months,
three
and that it
courses,
can be done simultaneously because it's on the weekends,
right?
right? So you can do that is that 6 months because it's basically three courses, right? And same format, 12 lessons each, and each lesson is 2 hours on the weekends.
And
So
speaking of that, Sheikh, the third one will be starting in January, the Sira course on Saturday, Sunday. So
yeah,
people
so you
can
can
join
avail from
into
that,
that
inshallah.
and then catch up in September. And if there's enough people, we have faculty available, inshallah, to teach another course before September, even if required. So in the break times, but we can consider that depending on the enrollments.
Mhm.
Um, will this be an online class for all 9 years?
Yeah, so basically for the people who are going to be in distance, yes, we will continue to offer it online that can't come to our center, inshallah, once we basically settle with the center. But those who are going to be in close proximity, we're going to require them to come and be in person, inshallah.
Next question is, who's going to teach the fiqh of the three madahib?
Oh, that's going to be based on what faculty is available then. That's a long time from now. We have but as I've said before, when it comes to the programs, they've been developed. They're just sitting there. It's a matter of what faculty amongst our pool is available at the time to teach it that we will put forth the teacher, inshallah.
Right, and it's no different from actually many universities and colleges. It's a function of
Yeah.
faculty availability. Okay, any pre-qualifications? We talked about that already. Essentials is the pre-qualification. Next is, but like Sheikh said, it can be done simultaneously. Next is, can a person start from 4-year Arabic, finish the Arabic section, and then move to year 1 orientation of disciplines? I don't follow the question. Can a person start from year 4? Sorry. Okay, so they're saying, can they start from year 4, meaning Arabic, so which is the second section of the pursuers program, finish the Arabic section, and then move back to year 1 orientation of
Yeah,
discipline?
they can do that.
Yeah, that's
We've already opened up that door this year.
exactly.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
can do that, inshallah.
Has a class graduated already through the 9 years? If not, where's the oldest class at right now?
No, they haven't right now. The oldest class right now is just entering the 6th year.
Now, Sheikh, I mean, a little bit of this is tried and tested upon us, right? Myself and Dr. Sharik. And
Yeah,
so
I mean, yourself and Dr. Sharik did this part-time as well, but not with this particular curriculum.
correct, right,
But Alhamdulillah, you guys spent what, 8 years?
right,
We started in what, 2008, graduated in 2016.
exactly.
So yeah, 8 years you guys spent, Alhamdulillah, and now you guys are the faculty of this institute, but it was with a different curriculum. And on this curriculum, alhamdulillah, through that experience that we had together, it influenced this curriculum that we are now teaching.
Right. So there are some repeat questions. I'm not going to repeat through those. You can get the recording and get through those answers. The next one is, how many will be selected for the class? What's the dropout rate in the past programs? So if you want, Sheikh, I mean, I can answer that. I think 20 to 30%, 20 to 30% dropouts we've seen in the first batch, and then the Arabic comes and slightly more people. Then there's a few people that drop out when the Arabic kicks in. So maybe another 10, 20% dropout at that point. But in batch 2, actually, we have had, so that's batch 1. Batch 2, we haven't had much dropout, maybe 20%, 25% dropout. But then more people joined through the Arabic section. So actually the class enrollment has gone up in batch 2. And they will do what the earlier question that came up, which they will join year 1, the Alim program, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And then the next is, what does Mathabah offer an Iftah course?
No, we don't.
Okay. And next is, which scholars gives ijaza in each of the specialties, and what does having ijaza in a specialty mean? I think, Sheikh, you went over that a little bit earlier in the lecture.
Yeah, so the ijaza comes from the institution, right? The institution is providing it. And basically what we'll have is the scholar that's teaching that particular discipline is the one whose name is going to go on it, right? So now when it comes to like for example tafsir, I'll be teaching tafsir, so these students, they're now going to be authorized by myself, inshallah, and I have my ijaza that's going back to my shuyukh and my teachers, and this is a tradition that we have for centuries, right? It traces back. So ijaza means an authorization. It's like a certificate, right? So now you're certified by the institution to go ahead and provide these contributions, inshallah.
Sheikh, related to that, there's a question. The second part is it a traditional ijaza or different? I think you answered there's a traditional ijaza given by that. Can I register for the program next year? The answer, I can do that one. Next year, we don't know if we're going to offer this because this is the first one we offered, I think 2014, Sheikh, or 2015?
2014, no, 2014.
Yeah, 2014. The second one we offered, I think 2017, and now we're in 2020. So this is the third batch. So generally, it's been working out every 3 years. So next year, there is no guarantees. We don't know when we'll be able to offer it again. Inshallah, we do intend to, but the exact timeline is not known to us. Next question. I've completed 1 year of an Arabic course with Al Khalil Academy. Is it necessary for me to do the Islamic Essential course?
Oh, yes, of course, because it's important for us to familiarize ourselves with the direction of the Institute, the mindset of the Institute, and that's going to serve as the segue to the discussions that we're going to have in the program. So, for example, if I haven't studied the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ with the institution, because we have a specific way of teaching it and a specific goal, then going on to the history of the Khulafa, there's going to be a gap there, right? We're not going to be able to now connect with what we studied down there for the student that wasn't in those programs. So it's necessary to have that foundation because it's definitely going to connect with the material that we're going to be covering in this program.
Okay. One more thing here then. There's one other question that came up earlier, which I actually skipped through. So it was about Sheikh Uthman Khan still being part of faculty. And the question is he still part of faculty?
Sheikh Uthman was never part of faculty. He's the head of the research department, right? So we had research projects going on. Unfortunately, because of COVID and other issues, we haven't been able to continue with that, but it's not something that's buried. It's something that we definitely will revive when the time is right. So Sheikh Uthman is not part of faculty. He's part of our research. He's the head of the research department.
Right. Okay. So another point came up in the chat, and I want to reiterate the answer that we said. If you haven't done the essentials, you don't have to wait for the next essentials. You can take the one from January in Sira, or make it up during the time of your Alim program in parallel. So meaning we will give you conditional acceptance depending on if other criteria is met. And you can inshallah start the Alim program in January, but then you make a commitment to us to take those courses ASAP. So I just wanted to clarify that because that came up again. Next is, I've already answered the dropout question. What is the option for doing Arabic first? So I think that both Arabic program was, it was marketed, and now I don't think it's, are we accepting any more students?
No, that
That's
boat has sailed. That's gone
right.
now.
So that's gone.
Yeah.
And now finally here, this is the last question. If the class decides to go with an option to specialize in that you don't want to focus on at that point, can they postpone their last 3 years until they can study a topic they would like to focus on?
By all means, it's really, you're going at your pace. That's why this program has been designed in the way it has been. Right. So if it's something that you don't want to pursue, that's fine. And when that option does become available, then you come back, inshallah, and then you study that.
Perfect. That takes us through all the questions. The tuition question has come up. Has the tuition of the program been covered? I don't think we talked about tuition so far.
No, the tuition is actually on the website. You can go and see there. Just scroll down to the bottom of the website, and the tuition fees are cited there.
Okay, so that's it. That's all the questions I saw. I think we're inshallah ta'ala, and if I think the recording can be requested of this from the institute, our admins, inshallah, people can request a recording.
Yes, of course, inshallah. And it can be distributed, it can be shared, spread the word, inshallah. Time is limited. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts everyone's participation in this program today. I do want to thank everyone for taking out the time to be with us on this evening. I want to thank our faculty for being with us today. And I do want to, inshallah, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah grants us success in this endeavor and we're able to meet our goal and our dream of creating the future contributors to Islamic sciences. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.